Hello and welcome to a scene for Vampire by Gaslight. Today Jonas is going to talk with one of his associates and drop off some samples and drawings. And he will find his way to the clinic much the same as last time. But today he'll be directed to a smaller side office instead of to her brother's office. And Miss Beatrice will put aside some sewing. It is quite intricate.
Jonas, for his part, will go ahead and enter and cross the threshold, knocking at the border of the door and calling out, "Ma'am?"
Mr. Paulka, I am very glad you could come.
Well, Miss Beatrice, it's always a lovely evening that I get to spend in your company. Jonas will go ahead and walk over to, I assume, a desk or some type of side table, I take it, right?
There's a side table. There is a desk, but she's not actually sitting at it at the moment. It's more laid out as a parlor slash study type area than the more traditional office of her brother's. It's kind of a
So it's
little
much
bit
more.
more sociable.
So it's a bit more of a parlor, you say. So I can imagine a few couches, a drawing desk, a side table, and just a small little station where a woman would presumably start to make notes and or letters to.
Yep.
All right. Uh, Jonas will proceed to walk over to this writing desk and start to take a few things out of his bag. These being the notes that he took examining the body that we'll call the woodland creature. Wow. Never thought the woodland creature would actually be that disgusting horrible, but we're going with it.
So I take it you were able to procure your samples.
Miss, come look at this. I think you'll be quite interested in these structures as Jonas begins laying out the diagrams that he and Floki actually made out on the drawing desk while placing a few different sample patches actually to the side.
And Miss Beatrice will smooth her skirt and stand and make her way over. And whilst in every way it seems as if she is paying entirely attention to the table, she will be standing just that little bit closer than society would probably deem appropriate to her dear friend Jonas. And she'll run her fingers lightly over the drawings, following the lines. Her attention completely on the paper.
Completely on the paper.
Yep.
Not on the arm that seems to be wandering in certain places that society would deem uncouth. Not paying attention to the fingers that seem to be trailing up her back, and then never so slightly trailing off.
Of course she isn't.
No, nothing uncouth is happening here whatsoever. As Jonas's other right hand goes ahead and points out. See, here is the diagram of the entire creature. Just from the creature's visage, I didn't presume it to be anything. However, when I was able to examine its lineage, its heritage, it pointed me directly at not necessarily your direct bloodline, but one of your cousins, perhaps. This seems to be of a Zemi that has been altered or has altered itself beyond recognition.
He wouldn't have altered himself like this. Look at that. That is just far too short a forearm for that upper arm. And the knees here. Can you see how they're slightly bent, bowed at the knee?
And this looks like bow-legged, yes.
Now, you see that quite a deal because, well, there are so many people that pick up bad habits in their walking, sitting, and riding styles. But any decent practitioner would correct that. Because this creature is certainly not designed to go on a horse.
Interesting. I was thinking about what this creature may have been before it was changed so radically. One of the first ideas I came up with was some sort of laborer or woodsman, actually. But you say that this creature wouldn't have been one to ride on a horse, is that right?
He clearly had ridden on a horse, but I don't think he had much skill with it. More time than let's just say quality and quantity are two different matters. Perhaps a dray horse. You said you were thinking a labourer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are not many mines quite so close to here and the ponies are far too. Perhaps if he was using horse to pull something, a large weight.
Plow.
Yes, perhaps a plough. Though usually a plough man would need to be behind it to press the weight for the till to enter the soil.
So a lot more stress in the back, lower back, actually.
This perhaps a woodsman. If he used some form of if he used a horse that was too large or too small for him, with little annoy of a saddle, which was hitched up to whatever wood he had gathered, that might cause this kind of distortion in an area like this. Of course, he could have been sourced from outside this area.
It may be the case that he was sourced outside the area and brought in by whatever his master may have deemed. From what I could tell, whoever embraced this creature was of heavily potent blood, actually, which caused me great amount of concern. I do not want to think of one of your bloodline who was not associated with you, who I'm not absolutely familiar with. There's a devil-may-care smile at that one. Who may be causing trouble for myself, the kindred of the city, or even yourself. I would hate to think that somebody was so reckless as to put you at danger at all, even by making something as stupid of a mistake as letting something like this go.
And she'll turn to look at Jonas with a bit of a coy smile. And
Would
and
you like to see the hands?
oh, definitely. Although I can tell you what I expect them to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Claws, sharp ones, not suitable for much in terms of the same sort of manual labour that he once did. Not detailed enough, but very good for what he's been transformed into. And now she is looking at Jonas rather than the paper. And considering how close she was standing before, it's probably feels quite intimate because she's looking at him with the same sort of concentration that she was looking at the paper.
Without missing a beat, without diverting his attention from Miss Beatrix, Jonas goes ahead and snakes out one of the pouches. One of the pouches that happens to have the talon or the finger of this particular creature. Goes ahead and uncovers it a little bit, keeping the pouch handy and wrapped towards the end. They bring just that one claw up between them, just ever so distant. The only thing that is between their eyesight. Look at this.
And she'll run one finger lightly over the edge of the claw from its point back over the nail and down the finger. And then she'll look at her finger and its slight sort of dustiness. How long ago was this severed?
This may have been severed 1 or 2 hours prior to us being here.
1 or 2. As precise a time as possible, if you don't mind.
Jonas looks up for a second, breaking eye contact, and simply says, by the clock, that would be 2 hours and 15 minutes and 30 seconds.
She seems to think, biting her lip slightly as she does so, and the slightest of frowns as she's working something out. When she seems to have figured it out, there's a small smile. And she refocuses her attention on Jonas. Do you know much about the decomposition of kindred?
I know A little bit. The decomposition of the normal kind body is usually within a set amount of range, where the flesh will decay, the gases will expand and escape from the body. The skin will get sunken down. You generally get this skeletal type feeling where well, as I said, the skeletal function or structure is very, very pronounced until eventually that dies away as well. And the skeleton can persist for quite a number of years after that, slowly crumbling to the elements, much the same way as the kindred condition does. A younger kindred, only a few decades old, will not crumble to ash, but will simply leave a corpse should they meet final death. Whereas an elder will quickly, very quickly, succumb and crumble to ash.
So I'm sure that, knowing all that, you can tell almost as well as I can that this is not a very old Cainite.
No, no, it's not. He holds this talon up with the sharp edge, and just proceeds to inch it ever so closer to that smooth, creamy cheek, and simply says, "You think this will cut? You think this would damage?"
Quite definitely. There is still a very small smile as she's looking him in the eye. She's not looking at the talon.
Jonas will go ahead and point the razor's tip away from the smooth, dead skin and just sort of trace it down her cheek, making sure that the razor blade doesn't touch that wonderful, pure skin.
And she's just going to smile ever so. It's the same playful smirk, but more so.
Ma'am, I don't suppose you have anything else on your roster for this evening?
Once we've finished examining all of your samples, I don't believe I do have much on my date book for the day, or the night, as the case may be.
Jonas will go ahead and proceed to put the talon back into the pouch and start to produce the the other one. The other one having a bit of the scalp of the creature as well as the hair still clinging to the scalp, and sort of present it to her as well in much the same manner.
This one she will take, and she tugs very lightly at the hair and takes one fingernail and scratches the edge of where the skin has been cut. And she examines the residue on her fingers before cleaning it off with a handkerchief. A rather nice lacy handkerchief.
Where does she put the handkerchief afterwards?
She drops it on the desk. She's not going to tuck it back away dirty.
Fair dues. Continue.
But it did come from somewhere that might have drawn attention. This is certainly less than 6 months. More than 3 months. It depends slightly on the strength of the blood and the exact time of severance. I assume it took some time to collect the samples and to put them together and so forth. But it's not a very old creation, meaning that whoever made it is likely still very, very new to the art.
He may be very, very new to the art and possibly very, very new to the area. If it's as you say, that this mystery gentleman or lady happens to be new to the craft, she herself may not be as old as we think. We could be dealing with very much an amateur.
Oh, there's certainly an amateur at this, but the size. Do you notice anything about it?
No. Enlighten me.
Well, have you noticed how long your average mortuary table is?
Blinks, yes.
It could comfortably fit one or both of us, but this thing, it would extend over the edge.
So this creature, in order to create it, would require a workspace that would not be quite standard. Okay.
Something which, well, it would be difficult to acquire quietly when one is new. New to the craft, yes, but either they have a mentor who is teaching them and has the equipment and the location, or they are not new to our way of life. I can't tell from looking at this creature which one of those is the case, but someone involved is certainly older than the 6 or 7 months that at the outside this person has been practicing.
Is it possible that this person has been practicing with a discipline he is not quite familiar with for quite a number of years? That would have given him enough time to take in this early secure workspace, secure a few candidates in order to embrace and experiment on further.
It's possible. There are many things that are possible.
I'm sorry, there seems to be something, excuse me, and Jonas, without taking his eyes off of Miss Beatrix, goes ahead and retrieves the handkerchief that she had used in order to clean herself off, and you can presume accidentally or otherwise, uses the dirty end to touch your cheek just ever so lightly, leaving just a bit of a stain there.
She's just going to smirk at his eccentricities.
And again, he'll go ahead and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry." Again, dab. I seem to be making a much more of a mess. I'm terribly sorry. And again, go ahead and again. What will you do with me?
What indeed? rather think that we will need something more than a handkerchief to deal with such a great mess.
Mm-hmm. What would we think? I'm not familiar with this place's facilities, or at least not as much as I would like to be.
Well, we do have need of a room for cleansing oneself.
Then I say, abscond yourself. And should you need another pair of hands, I'm more than willing to help a lady out.
I'm sure you would be very helpful. And without actually saying yes or no, she's going to turn and leave the room.
Jonas will actually wait about 2 minutes before following close behind.
As you go along the corridor, you notice that one of the office doors is slightly ajar. And you can hear the sound of shuffling paper and the low murmured voice of Dr. Crawley. Though not yet aware of your presence, his own sort of aura, as it were, does dominate this particular section of the household.
Interesting. Well, it would be unpolite to at least introduce myself. Open office. Jonas will actually go ahead and proceed to the threshold of the office and go ahead and knock.
Enter.
He goes ahead and does so. Doctor, I didn't expect you to be in this evening, or at least not after these last few hours.
The doctor sat at his desk. It's a much grander, large oak desk than the one at the private clinic, and he's surrounded by walls of books. There are two young manservants who are handling the books with extreme caution, wearing linen gloves. And he looks over at you, almost squinting his small eyes. I'm surprised to see you.
Oh, you did ask me to see if I couldn't bring some sort of sample of the creature. I was able to drop them off at the little saloon over there, actually. Perchance, would you like to explain what you're researching? Maybe I'd be a help.
He he sort of dips his quill in his ink and carries on writing. I'm always researching, Professor, to study the ancient ways, scripts, textures, all the different cultures of our worlds is a lifelong works of mine. Gives me greater understanding of our nature and the nature of those around us.
Interesting. Interesting. I don't mean to tarry much longer, but what's the general purpose of tonight's or this evening's research?
Let's call it particular bloodlines and their faction houses. Quite interested in rumours I've heard of a unusual bloodline cropping up in the southern colonies.
You may have to remind me out of character. What does this man mean by southern colonies?
At this point, it was the British Empire, so probably towards Australia.
Yeah, I'm much more familiar with the kindred of the Ivory continent. If you'll allow me, I'll roll intelligence occult to make that comment, but I know nothing else.
If you wish to, you can. This guy trumps you on intelligence occult, I can guarantee you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He is the brain.
Increase the difficulty by 8. I mean to 8.
Yeah.
All right. Jonas is going to make a entirely faux pas assumption and simply say, I believe you may be talking about the, what do they call it? Mummified bloodline that proceeds to rise every 100 or so odd years in order to create a new reign. Is that right? Lords and ladies of the night?
No, not in this case. He looks polite but impatient with you now.
Ah, right. At the impatientness, I assume he's still looking down. He's got like one eyebrow raised towards me, and he's got his head pointed at the desk while keeping his eyes, actually crooked towards him, as if saying, "Would you like to leave now?"
In the whole time that you've ever met Dr. Crawley, it's very rare that you'll see him stand up and walk around. He seems to be permanently behind a desk of some kind. If he's standing up and walking around, or walking towards you, please feel free to shit yourself. So you feel pretty safe in this scenario, but it's probably best if you leave him alone to his studies, especially if you're planning on getting away with what I think you're getting away with. If he's distracted, all the better.
Jonas will go ahead and say, "By your leave, I will dismiss myself."
Good evening, Professor, he says, and goes back to his book.
And with that, Jonas will quickly bow out of this particular office and make his way to the bathing room.
And it's fairly unusual, but it's not that unusual. But there is hot running water. Which is something of a luxury, but not so much of one as to be weird. But you can hear water running.
All right. So this is what I sort of imagine. I imagine that this particular chamber, this bathing room, is sort of divided into two. If you, excuse me, I'm taking a lot of liberties here. I assume it's divided into two partitions with a very, very sturdy and somewhat thin curtain between the undressing area and the bathing area. And I believe the bathing area would be sort of lifted up as sort of a platform for the actual bath or tub to be.
Tub is separate from the shower.
Yep, that's good. That's very good. I'm imagining one thing, you're telling me another thing. That's all right.
Yep, I'm kind of making it up as I go as well. But yeah, the shower is to one side behind a curtain. There is also room dividers, screens around the bathtub, but they're on opposite sides of the room. with the sink facing you. And there's, yeah, it is a big bath, but it's got, like I said, it's got room dividers to give it some screens to give it a bit of privacy to the tub. But there is a toilet off to one side, but it looks almost forgotten, like it's just there because theoretically they need one.
Uh, Tell me, is there a wardrobe in here or someplace you would store your clothing?
Um, there is a linen cupboard which holds the towels. It also has two empty shelves in it, or two shelves that were empty. One has a neat pile of clothing on it now. Um, and but it looks like a wardrobe, but if you open it, there's like a whole load of towels and it's shelves inside rather than hangers.
Question, is this place lit? And how well is it lit?
It is lit, but given the timing, um, it's got gas lamps. It's lit over the sink, um, above the mirror, so you can see to move around the room. But by modern standards, it would be very dim. By the standards of the day, it would be fairly normal.
Okay, understood. Um, well, it seems as if the linen closet will become more full as Jonas will proceed to disrobe, and after disrobing, he'll go up to the gas lights and proceed to dim them actually, ever so slightly, ever so slightly, ever so slightly, until it's just a tiny pin of light, making sure that the gas is safe. At least it's not leaking. Taking an extra moment to listen to it, see how it burns well enough so it's not going to cause any sort of brownout, and proceed to fill the room, which is a hazard and a danger.
Yes,
But
yes,
after
yes.
oh yeah, he's making sure to dim the room so that whatever happens in the dark. He'll proceed to walk towards the curtain, unless you
Um,
want to go further.
Shrugs. But I think there we will stop torturing Lisa.
We'll end the scene with Jonas taking a hold of the curtain that separates them and pulling it.